Australia has a proud history of scientific research and exploration in Antarctica. Dr. Ian Allison studied the ice sheet and sea ice for 42 years.
Australia's always had involvement in Antarctic science. It's a way of projecting our national capability. It's one of the most areas where we've been most influential in our science capability and demonstrated it to the rest of the world.
75 years ago, the first ANARI, or Australian National Antarctic Research Expedition, landed on Heard Island. 3 months later, Macquarie Island Research Station was established. Since then, thousands of Australian men and women have travelled south. Dave McCormack spent many winters at Casey and Mawson stations.
When you're selected to go to Antarctica in an expedition, it's like a lottery. You haven't got a clue who you're going to go with. You get to know people very well, and that's when you start to enjoy your time there, you know.
Central to ANARI's success was Dr. Phil Law, aka Mr. Antarctica.
Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
He was ANARI's first senior scientific officer and director for 17 years. Dr. Law led expeditions to establish Mawson in 1954 and Davis in 1957. He oversaw the initial construction of Casey Station in 1969 and established many scientific programs that continue today.
It was extremely important to have someone like Phil Law. He was a one-off person really when you think. He was a man for the time. His vision in the Antarctic was to the science down there. No one had been down there and done this stuff before, see?
The programs that Australia undertook were studies of cosmic rays, the aurora, geophysics or geomagnetism, and meteorology. And they introduced during IGY a study of glaciology. And I think Phil Law saw that Antarctica is mostly ice, so if you don't study the ice, you're missing a major part.
Professor Nicole Webster leads today's Australian Antarctic Science Program.
I think the really foundational work that was done in those pioneering days of discovery, where they were first understanding how things like ice sheets worked or what kind of organisms lived in the Antarctic, none of the work that we do today could actually be possible if it wasn't for those foundational studies. In a recent funding initiative, we actually got a substantial investment from government to actually grow our science in ice sheet science capability, because the vulnerability of things like the East Antarctic ice sheet is probably the biggest science questions that we're trying to answer at the moment.
The signing of the Antarctic Treaty in 1959 embedded Australian science into international decision-making. This included research to manage fisheries in the Southern Ocean through CAMELAR. Supported by Australia's first icebreaker, the Aurora Australis, launched in 1989.
So a large amount of our biological science actually directly informs CAMELAR decisions, whether that's catch limits for things like krill or toothfish or icefish, whether it's a broader science that actually understands the marine ecosystem so that we can inform things like the design of marine protected areas.
Between the 1960s and the 2000s, scientific expeditions reached deep into the Antarctic interior.
Between about 1968, 69 and 79, 80, there was about 12 years of summer programs, multidisciplinary, working in the northern Prince Charles Mountains, southern Prince Charles Mountains, and then they shifted to Enderby Land to the west of Mawson. So they involved surveying, aerial photography, geology, geophysics, glaciology, and a little bit of biology, not a lot then.
Oh, traverses, oh gee whiz, so many years, so many stories. We had small ones at Casey up to Law Dome, which these days doesn't seem very far, it's only 100 miles sort of thing. In those days they had the Law Dome Triangle, which was a three-sided 100 miles a side triangle, which they drilled along. They were drilling ice cores along the whole lot of that over the years. The Mawson Huskies, I went on many trips with them, and I consider myself so lucky because they were just, those days are gone now, of course. I used to love going west at Mawson. You go west, young man, you know, it was The scenery was just fantastic. And the islands, the good thing about Mawson is it's got fantastic sea ice, you know, and you can go for hundreds of miles down the coast on the sea ice in vehicles. So they even go there now, it's still in the Hagons. But the dogs, perfectly safe, you know, and great dog running, beautiful country, and I got so many good memories of those times, you know.
Rod Ledingham spent 23 years as a field training officer in Antarctica. He introduced apple and melon huts to Australia's Antarctic program.
The groups that went, in the field, they came back all happy, as a general rule, as far as I know. Yeah, I always did the cooking. They had to put up with my well-known NKS soup, which was nutritious kitchen scrap. Which we got from Macquarie. So anyway, I managed to keep them alive. They didn't whinge too much.
Dr. Jeannie Ledingham was among the first women to work in Antarctica in the 1980s.
We applied to the Antarctic Division from Western Australia and very cheekily said that if we were chosen, we would like to go to the same station. As a doctor, I've had 2 years on Macquarie, 2 remote summer programs, one at Cape Denison, Commonwealth Bay, and one at Bunga Hills. And I've had 3 round trips with the Antarctic Division going to the stations.
Today, women are a key part of Australia's Antarctic endeavours. Sharon Labutter has spent 20 years leading teams on stations, ships, and in the field.
When I first started at the Antarctic Division, I was employed as a diesel mechanic, and I did a couple of winters as a diesel mechanic, and then I moved into being an aircraft ground support officer. I did that for maybe something like 8 seasons. I've also worked as a deputy voyage leader, deep field leader, and now traverse leader. Oh, and also ops coordinator. So quite a vast range of jobs. My role went on Traverse this year. I was a Traverse leader, and I also was driving the snow groomer. So I was leading the crew, finding the way, navigating and cutting a road for all the tractors, and also planning and implementing all the tasks each day.
The old ANARI, now the Australian Antarctic Program, has evolved with advances in transport and technology, including an air link between Hobart and Wilkins Aerodrome that's operated since 2008. And a partnership with the Australian Defence Force to deliver cargo and extend operational reach. In 2021, Australia's new scientific icebreaker RSV Noina was brought into service. And in 2023, the first major traverse in 20 years was successfully completed.
The traverse this year from Casey to Little Dome Sea, and our mission really was to get there and hopefully get to take some ice core, which we did. Each day we travelled probably around 80 kilometres, and in total one way was about 1,200 kilometres. We had great tractors, great living vans, we even had a coffee machine. So comparing that to what the teams would have done years ago in like a D4 or a Weasel, we'd probably still be going, I reckon, if we had to go in those same vehicles. I think having the traverse capability has opened up a larger, different range of science that we can do in Antarctica.
The reason it's such an exciting time for the program is because we can really capitalise on some of the developments in technology that will enable that big picture with science. We've got the arrival of Noina, and she is packed with innovative capability that we've never had before. We've now extended our science program to enable us to be able to do the deep field science into areas of Antarctica that we've never actually been before. So it's certainly a really exciting future for the science program.
Australia is well equipped to answer today's global challenges and ensure continued stewardship of Antarctica.